Atlanta, Georgia is one of the oldest cities in the United States. Rich in national history, Atlanta was founded in 1837 and thrived until the Civil War, when it was nearly decimated in the infamous burning of Atlanta during General William T. Sherman's March to the Sea. But ruination actually ended up working to the city's advantage. It became the center of Southern Restoration and was named state capital in 1868. Today, Atlanta is the South's commercial and economic nucleus. In addition to its prominent place in our national history, a stroll through Atlanta reveals its abundant architectural heritage. Parts of the city are frozen in time, with pre- and post-Civil War era and early 20th century homes dotting the neighborhoods. Clearly, the city of Atlanta is committed to the preservation of its history. So it's fitting that Atlanta is home to two of National Church Residence's most urgent senior housing preservation efforts. Lakewood Christian Manor, a 251-unit affordable senior community, along with neighboring Trinity Towers, a 240-unit affordable senior community, became part of the NCR fold in 1999. Lakewood, however, was beset with financial and maintenance problems. Trinity Towers was financially sound, but time was catching up with the building, and major repair work wasn't far behind. Vestiges of HUD's aging 236 housing program that provided affordable rents to seniors in the form of low-interest loans to developers, the two structures face the same challenge: money. How could NCR maintain the buildings as affordable senior housing, update the tired facilities, but still keep rents low? Funding sources to renovate this type of housing are elusive, to say the least. The HUD 236 program was conceived without any forethought toward the eventual upkeep that the buildings would demand. Both Lakewood Christian Manor and Trinity Towers are HUD offspring and have served their intended purpose for well over 30 years. In fact, the main reason that the former owners of both Lakewood and Trinity approached NCR to assume ownership of the properties was because of NCR's commitment to the preservation of affordable housing, as well as NCR's management expertise and reputation for finding creative ways to inject funds into its buildings. But in this case, that wasn't so easy.
The reason it's so difficult with Lakewood and Trinity is there's really no way to get capital dollars into any of these 236s without taking them to market or without some artificial program that the government has created, such as a tax credit program.
The problem with getting money in to do the rehab of a building like Lakewood is, first of all, it takes a lot of money. You've got just your aesthetic work like carpeting and wallpaper and things like that, units that are outdated. But you also have building systems like your HVAC system or your chillers, your coolers, your elevators, things like that cost a lot of money. Very few of these buildings had enough in what we would call a reserve account, monies that were used and dedicated to help keep the building up to date. We have now applied, this is our fourth attempt at trying to get credits at the Lakewood building. So you spend a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of brain power going through the application process only to be turned down for whatever the state's priority reasons are.
So the problem remains. Lakewood is short of cash for even the most basic building maintenance, and raising rent isn't an option with elderly residents on fixed incomes. The next step? Streamline operating costs without cutting resident services. In fact, NCR's goal, if at all possible, was to increase resident services while making a positive impact on the budget.
When National Church Residences took over Lakewood, we obviously were in a distressed position financially, not only with the actual building, but also with the operating monies. There just wasn't enough to run the building well. We had to put a couple of difficult decisions in right away. One was that they were paying a lot of money, the previous owner was paying a lot of money to do security. And the way they did that was to hire a very expensive security company to sit and monitor the front desk every evening and every weekend. We don't think it was very effective, but the residents were comfortable with it. But it was killing the building financially. So we had to put in a difficult decision, but with HUD's help, we were able to rewire the front entrance and create access cards so that all the residents had a secure doorway without having to pay the cost of the security company. Still was a difficult decision and painful to the residents to make the adjustment.
Owners of HUD 236 properties across the country face the same problem. How do you improve an aging building without increasing resident rents? These type of properties pose an especially difficult dilemma. Owners can't raise rent, can't borrow money, but must increase services to residents.
HUD's in the same position as other government leaders. They don't realize how serious this problem is, that we're going to lose thousands of units of really high-quality housing unless we put in place some tools to allow its preservation. I would say the reason I see it as a tragedy, I mean, I feel it personally, is that it's very, very difficult to develop high-quality senior housing or affordable housing. It's very difficult to get locations. Virtually every 236 that is threatened with opt-out is already in a good location, and for a fraction of the cost of new construction, it could be preserved for affordable housing. So the tragedy is we're losing it. It's not on anyone's radar screen, and by the time we get through the public process of getting on the radar screen of local, state, and national policymakers, we will have lost thousands of these units.
As of 2002, National Church Residences has more than 220 affordable senior and family communities in 26 states and Puerto Rico. NCR has already preserved affordable housing communities in Cleveland, Ohio, Pacifica, California, Manhattan, Kansas, Clinton, Charlotte, Monroe, and Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and Atlanta, Georgia. The cost to build a new affordable housing community is more than twice that to preserve an existing building, a fact that warrants further scrutiny by our nation's leaders. Consider the following. 6% of the elderly population, or 1.45 million households, live in substandard housing. 55% of renters in substandard housing have no assets and annual incomes of less than $10,000. 30% of our nation's elderly pay more than they can afford for housing. Nearly 900,000 elderly renters pay more than 50% of their low incomes for housing. Almost 1 million elderly households suffer from unmet needs for home modification. 1.4 million seniors already experience worst-case housing needs. More than 33 million people in the U.S. are over 65 years old. By 2020, that number will grow to 53 million, or 1 in every 6 Americans. There are over 2,236 properties across the country in danger of being converted to market rate. Here in Washington, the headquarters of ASA, the American Association of Homes and Services for the Aging, the nation's affordable housing crisis isn't news. ASA has been working for years with its member constituency to try to solve the nation's affordable housing problem. The preservation of existing affordable housing stock is one of ASA's primary objectives.
ASA also is looking for other ways to finance the modernization of the older 236s. In recent testimony that Tom Slimmer had before Congress, he advocated that we recapture some of the existing funds and develop a demonstration program for nonprofit 236s. We have that underway. We are also working with the committees, with Congressman LaFalls, to introduce legislation that will allow for an authorization of funds specifically for modernizations of the 236 programs. And so we have a number of efforts underway, but clearly there are insufficient funds right now to enable nonprofits to acquire these facilities. The issue is, as Tom Slimmer testified recently, is that if we can preserve these facilities, it costs about half as much as it does to build new facilities. And this is a message that we're trying to get to the Hill so that they understand that this is a very sound investment in sustaining affordability in this country for low-income older persons. We have a silent crisis in this country because if we do not do something, it's going to be a few years from now when we wake up and realize that we have really lost the supply of affordable housing in this country. What that means is those who have been able to keep up with market rate, their incomes have escalated with the economy, are going to probably pay more for their housing than they had before, but their income is more. For those who are on fixed income, who have a critical need for affordable housing in this country, they're going to be suffering, because not only are we not building as adequate supply of new production of affordable housing, but we are losing the existing supply.
When it comes down to it, all the effort in the world doesn't matter if affordable housing doesn't meet the social, economic, and functional needs of the people that it's intended for. Success is best measured where it makes the greatest impact, one resident at a time.
We are senior citizens. We cannot work and accumulate a home again. And the money should be there. We worked all our lives to have a place to live. Some here are sold their homes to come here, and the money should be there for us. As I said earlier, this is our last place. It should be made. We've paid our dues, I think. I worked 42 years in food. They never paid cooks anything back there. Cooks never had a union. So we're retired now. We need a place. We need a place that we feel safe and we are loved and we are cared for. Our concerns should be heard. Something should be done about them. And then that would make our last days as happy as they could be.
We are committed to getting the monies available so that the building is something that the community is proud of, the residents are proud of it, and National Church Residence is proud of it.